child will remember this moment, even if it seems to bore him a little at the moment. Children, old soldiers, all generations, just as they were filing past the Queen Mother's coffin in Westminster Hall. I can tell you the names of the horses, the lead pair, Henchman and Lyric. And there are Henchman and Lyric in the front. And back quickly to Westminster Abbey for the Duchess of York arriving. Greeted by Malcolm Ross, the man who organised the event today. Sir Malcolm Ross apologised to him. And we saw the Duchess's two children, Beatrice and Eugenie, with the Queen only the other day.
Duchess of York, of course, was also a guest at the funeral of Diana, Princess of Wales, in 1997, being escorted up the aisle of the nave.
And since we were last inside the Abbey, the King and Queen of Greece have arrived, as well as several other royal families of Europe, Prince and Princess of Hanover, Liechtenstein, Aosta. Drums of the massed pipes and drums serving to provide the step, in fact, for the soldiers. And those horses, well used to ceremonial, especially calm with the sound of military bands. And on that gun carriage, which we just saw in such vivid close-up, there's an inscription, and it reads, "This gun carriage was used to carry His late Majesty King George VI from Sandringham Church to Wolferton Station on the 11th of February in 1952. It was drawn by 6 horses of the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery." As indeed it is today. On the right, the Guard of Honour. On the left, the crowd. The gun carriage approaches Westminster Hall to perform its last function. Back outside Westminster Abbey, where almost certainly Laura Bush, First Lady, representing her husband, the President, today at the service. There she is in the middle, Laura Bush. And when the wife of a former president, President Roosevelt, had been invited to stay at Buckingham Palace during the war, she said how impressed she was with the warm hospitality. Not, though, the freezing cold of the rooms. The Queen Mother had given up her own room, heated only by one electric fire with one bar in it, because of wartime economy. How different it is now. Laura Bush, accompanied by the American ambassador, there on the left of your picture, William Furnish. William Farish, who played such a large part at the memorial service in St. Paul's Cathedral after the horrors of September the 11th. And he too, William Farish, is a great racing enthusiast and no doubt had many conversations on that topic with the Queen Mother. And gentlemen-at-arms, Hugo, what's their role?
Well, they are the Queen's bodyguard, and of course they were one of the guards who stood vigil over the Queen Mother's coffin, along with the Yeomen of the Guard, the Royal Company of Archers, Lifeguards and others. They are the Queen's personal bodyguard, and they were bounded to give particular help to the Sovereign. They tend to be brigadiers and colonels and majors. They are very distinguished men.
They're standing under the altar screen, waiting to be shown their places in the choir stalls. The massed pipes and drums taking up their place, ready to play the moment that the order is given to slow march with the Queen Mother's coffin across Parliament Square. And that'll all be happening within the next 15 or 20 minutes. Every single regular regiment of pipes and drums is represented on parade this morning, together with 2 regiments of the Territorial Army. It really is quite uncanny to see Parliament Square on a Friday morning as still and silent as was Westminster Hall for the entire lying in state. Hundreds, well, we think over 200,000 people filed past, and no one, to my knowledge, ever broke the silence. And when that silence is finally broken in Parliament Square this morning, it will be to the sound of 196 massed pipes and drums. And the bell that we heard a few moments ago, one of those tolls of 101 tolls from the tenor bell on Westminster Abbey, one for every year of the Queen Mother's life. Knowing that they're witnessing history in the making. The scene in Whitehall, Parliament Square, where the crowds allowed onto the green, almost up to the Grenadier Guards there. The band of the Grenadier Guards, they've been allowed onto the green. Quite a surprise that just the degree to which the public have been allowed to participate in this right from the word go. Such a change, almost amid all the formality, the informality of the crowds in their jeans, their trainers, their anoraks, right up against the most formal military ceremonial that this country can offer.
Yes, it's been such a feature of the last few days to see so many crowds coming in and gathering overnight and so close to the more formal scenes that we see before us.
Robert Lacey, just picking up the point that Hugo Vicky was making there, we've seen the magnificence of the bands, but something of the ancient solemnity of these ceremonies too, a rather endearing mix.
Yes, and I think we're going to see it particularly with these pipers and drummers. Of course, we saw the troops just now arriving at normal pace march. On Friday, of course, we saw the slow march. That's what we're going to see once the coffin comes out. And I think just these pipers and drummers, 180 of them, I think, will be very moving indeed.
And Robert, just behind us now, we can see the Duke of Edinburgh, because we are right here near Buckingham Palace, and the Duke of Edinburgh leaving Buckingham Palace, heading to Westminster Abbey.
Because as on Friday, he will be leading the royal family on foot behind the coffin.
They arrived at Westminster, they arrived at Buckingham Palace, of course, only about half an hour ago from Windsor, and now he's heading towards Westminster Abbey.
Yeah, it must have changed, actually, pretty quickly.
Very, very, very quickly indeed.
And the sun is shining now.
The sun is shining then,
Yes.
So it is.
This whole area, of course, the cars are passing for, was designed expressly by Edward VII, the son of Queen Victoria, for ceremonials, but of course in the age of horses. Now the Royal Mews has cars, but it still provides a very dignified setting, ceremonial London.
And I don't know how much of it we can see, but since we've begun this broadcast earlier today, the number of people lining the Mall, going down, all the way down, through the arch, down to Westminster Abbey, has increased enormously. You can just see them there.
Well, of course, it will be after the funeral that it's people's last chance to say goodbye. Look, there are some pearly kings and queens. I always think there was something of the pearly queen about the Queen Mother herself. And of course,
you're not the first person to say that.
No, obviously not. And the royal correspondents seldom are. And there is the East End. The East End has come to her to say goodbye.
Yes. Which is, it should be, as she played such a big part during the war
And
in
famously
the East End.
went to the, famously talked about looking people at the East End of the face.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, in
or
the,
not being able
the
to if she left
sites and
London.
the people who lost their homes and everything.
And these are the people. This is the constituency, isn't it? We talked about earlier. These are the people who have these very deep, profound memories about the Queen Mother and about her role during the Second World War.
Yes, and of course, they exist for charity as well. I'm never quite sure what pearly kings and queens do, but in some way they dress up like that and they raise money for good causes. And of course, that again was...
Do you know them, Vera?
Oh, yes, I do, because they help us with one of my particular charities for children. And they're always there helping, and they'll offer their services at any time.
Charity, of course, was an enormous theme in her life, and it became in the course of her century, one of the new aspects of what the royal family did. In the old days, kings threw money into the crowd. That's what the Monde Money commemorates. But of course, in the 20th century, and the Queen Mother took a lead in this, the royal family came to exist to encourage the philanthropic streak in British life, and the raising money, but also all the voluntary workers who make a community what it is.
And it's been remarked especially that even well into her 80s, she was still associated with these charities, a number of them, and was still on their behalf doing
yes. I mean,
several engagements a month.
And she still, until just a few years ago, used to have these get-togethers with the charities and the servicemen at St. James's Palace, and this was something that she got a great deal of enjoyment out of.
I'm sure if we don't mention it, John Suchet will, and that's the Winkle Club of Hastings, which was one of the typical charities that took part in her birthday pageant.
Birthday celebrations, yes, we remember them.
Which was, of course, a wonderful mixture of the military, and everybody remarked on the eccentricity, but also the charity workers that made the backbone of it all.
Fascinating to see that there'll be many people of that sort of genre in the Abbey today, paying their last respects to the Queen Mother.
Yes, and of course that of course has the echo with the Princess of Wales' funeral, where again her charities and philanthropies were well represented, and here we are again with the same thing 5 years later.
Let's go back now to John Suchet.
The men of the royal family, the male members of the royal family, and Princess Anne arriving at Westminster Hall, and Hugo, as you correctly predicted, now in uniform.
Duke of Edinburgh and his son Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, both in naval uniform, and in the following car the Princess Royal also in naval uniform with Prince Edward. The Prince of Wales is also following, and some of the royal cars went to Westminster Abbey to deliver the ladies of the royal family.
And with Prince Charles in his car, his two sons, Princes William and Harry.
And that is the Prince of Wales's car heading towards Westminster Hall.
And these male members of the royal family with the Princess Royal will, as I said earlier, march behind the procession as they did on Friday. And this is the scene at the great west door of Westminster Hall. And Prince Charles, who we now know came back to Westminster Hall late last night on his own for silent contemplation, and earlier in the evening with his sons there, Prince William and Prince Harry, he took his place at one corner of the catafalque, and two brothers and a cousin at the other corners, and William and Harry mingled with the crowd and marched past, or rather processed past, the coffin of their great-grandmother. And if we go back to the Abbey, now more members of the royal family arriving. The Duke of Kent, with his back turned to us at the moment, there he is, the Duke of Kent. And we've seen other members, Prince Michael and Princess Michael of Kent have arrived with their children.
And the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester. And now you see the choir of the Chapel Royal leading the Westminster Abbey choir and the ecclesiastical procession up the Abbey. There's Canon Ovenden, who was with the Queen Mother, the Dean of Windsor, Bishop of London.
Nice, lovely thought from the crowd. Good night, Queen Mother, God bless. Held by children, should have loved that. And just before we moved out to that sign, we saw the Roman Catholic Archbishop of Westminster. And the choir, Chapel Royal Choir in their uniforms, followed by members of the Abbey choir. And now the procession of clergy, some of those down from Scotland, of churches that the Queen Mother used to attend regularly near her home, the Castle of May. That's the Archbishop of Westminster with his cardinal's cap on. About 20 minutes from now, the service will begin. And as we speak now, the gun carriage is arriving at Westminster Hall. In New Palace Yard now already, close to the door of the hall, where it will receive the coffin and carry it across Parliament Square, the short distance to the Abbey.
Members of the royal family waiting to process behind members of the Queen Mother's family. You see Prince Michael of Kent there, or Nicholas Windsor.
I've seen outside Westminster Hall of the gun carriage and the pallbearers, senior officers from the Queen Mother's regiments, as well as the captain of HMS Ark Royal, the commandant of the Royal Air Force Flying School, who took the same role in the procession on Friday. They will process up the aisle of Westminster Abbey with the coffin. And back to Buckingham Palace. The Queen leaves Buckingham Palace to come straight to Westminster Abbey. The male members have gone to Westminster Hall, but the Queen will go straight to the Abbey to await the arrival of her mother there. And as we said earlier, one of those rare appearances on television by her to pay tribute to the people for honouring her mother, and urging us today to celebrate her life, to be thankful for the Queen Mother's life, as well as to mourn it. Perfectly still as inside we know the coffin emerges, borne by the bearer party of the Irish Guards. And it'll be followed by the Duke of Edinburgh and close male members of the royal family, as well as the Princess Royal, all in place and totally still as they prepare to honour the coffin borne from the hall by the Irish Guards, the regiment with which the Queen Mother had such a close and personal relationship. And the moment the order is given to slow march, 196 massed pipes and drums will play the first of 2 Scottish slow airs, My Home, a favourite of her husband's, and The Mist-Covered Mountains of Home. The bagpipe, that ancient instrument of war, used as recently as the Falklands to lead soldiers into battle. In the First World War, so many pipers insisted on leading their companies into battle, and the losses so high that they had to be restrained by senior officers. The bagpipe about to play now for the person that Hitler called the most dangerous woman in Europe. The sounds of 120 pipes and 76 drums will echo off the buildings of Parliament Square. And the first of the Scottish slow airs, King George VI's favourite, My Home. The Queen's arrival at the Abbey to be greeted by the Dean of Westminster. The soldiers, all from the Queen Mother's regiments and all junior ranks. Westminster Abbey, once called the parish church of the royal family, the Queen knows well all the clergy that she's greeting. And in a few seconds from now, Westminster Hall, Parliament Square will echo to the sound of the massed pipes and drums. as another toll signifies another year of the Queen Mother's life, and as the sounds of the Scottish slow air, the mist-covered mountains of home, die away, the bearer party of the Irish Guards prepare to shoulder the Queen Mother's coffin into Westminster Abbey for her funeral. It was at 11:30 in the morning, almost exactly 79 years ago, that the then 22-year-old Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon entered Westminster Abbey. She re-emerged the Duchess of York. What she didn't expect was to be here 14 years later, to be crowned Queen, alongside her husband, the shy, stammering Bertie, who became King George VI. And at exactly 11:30 this morning, in just a minute from now, across the country, in schools, offices, shops, people will stop to observe 2 minutes silence in memory of the Queen Mother. And at exactly the moment the coffin passes through the door, in 10 seconds from now, exactly 11:30, that 2 minutes silence will be held.
Slow march.
Queen to her mother. And the service, which the Queen Mother helped to plan, begins with the choir singing the strongest affirmation of the Christian faith: I am the resurrection and the life.
In gratitude, we bid farewell to a greatly loved Queen, for her grace, humanity, and sympathy, for her courage in adversity, for the happiness she brought to so many, for her steadfast pilgrimage of faith, for her example of service, and for the duty which she rendered unflinchingly to her country. We thank and praise Almighty God. As we commend Elizabeth, his servant, to God's mercy, let us especially pray for her family in their loss. We give them back to thee, dear Lord, who gavest them to us.